Το ένα θα το δώσουμε στον Ζωτάκη. Και έχετε άλλο ένα backup αν χρειαστεί. Ωραία. Πώς άλλους μπορώ να σας βοηθήσω. Τέλεια, μια χαρά είμαστε. Αγγλικά ή ελληνικά?
Ξενός.
Έχουμε ένα μεγαλύτερο ποσοστό. Αγγλικά.
Λίγα.
Yes, why don't you have a seat? Your Excellencies, Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, Mr. Christodoulidis, President of the Cypriot Democracy, Your Excellencies, dear guests, welcome to the Greek Pavilion in COP28. This pavilion has been the result of the work of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Enterprise Greece, together with the Ministry of the Environment and Energy. And in particular, I would like to express my gratitude to Deputy Minister Zdoukou, who put so much of hard work behind the setting up of all of the events in the coming few days, and Mrs. Mirogianni from the General Secretariat of the Economic Diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So, Alexandra, what have we planned for today?
Hello also from my side, Prime Minister, President, Minister, Your Excellencies. Let me also say from my side that it's a really honor, it's a great pleasure that we have all of you here today. As you see, Greece has, for the very first time, Minister, its own pavilion.
Exactly.
Here in COP. We are very excited about that, and we tried to make our life interesting during the next days.
Well, you have made our lives interesting for sure.
So far. So, Prime Minister, we try to make a busy schedule in the next couple of days. We have organized a quite big number of Greek side events that we are going to host here in our pavilion in collaboration and cooperation with several other stakeholders and several other countries as well. I guess, Prime Minister, it's not me that I should say that you're leading in Greece the effort of our country to combat climate challenges. So here we are going to showcase during the next days the best examples from our country, the national targets that we have set as a country to mitigate climate change, to protect the environment, to achieve the net zero goal by 2050.
And we have plenty to talk about. We have great examples of our efforts of the past 4 or 5 days to reduce CO2 emissions, to provide examples of sustainability and intelligence behind sustaining the goals that we are speaking of. So we will be presenting all of this in the coming few days.
Exactly. So, yes, as you see here, there's a quite number of different side events about climate investments, about new technologies, Minister, and from your position as well, allow me to congratulate you because you advertise Greece and what we are doing in other countries on the best way, I could say. So congratulate also and thank you very much for the cooperation.
Thank you, Alexandra. We have something planned in about 10 or 15 minutes. It's our Ocean Conference that we will be preparing for April 24. But until that moment, let me ask the Prime Minister to join us on the podium and say a few words in this welcoming ceremony.
Prime Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President, Costa, Alexandra. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here at the Greek Pavilion. And congratulations for putting together an excellent program of side events for the next days. I've been going to the COP meetings since I was a humble member of parliament. I remember my first COP was in Bali, I think it was in 2007. And I always felt, and this is probably even more relevant this year, that there are really two COPs taking place. There are the official negotiations for the technocrats, which are incredibly important because that is where you actually make your commitments. And these are the legally binding texts that are agreed. And there's a second COP, which is everything else that is happening around the official negotiations, including all the important side events, where we can actually bring together all the stakeholders, governments, business, civil society, and sometimes the more interesting discussions actually take place during this second COP. And I do believe that the program that we have put together will give us an opportunity to highlight what we are doing when it comes to climate change, both on the mitigation and on the adaptation side, and to highlight some challenges and opportunities where we believe that Greece can actually be a protagonist going forward. I do need to point out, as we are speaking here about nationally determined contributions, that Greece is the country that has reduced its CO2 emissions the most since 2005, by 43% to be exact. Of course, this is also related to the economic crisis that we suffer, but it is still an objective fact. We can come to the COP holding our sort of our hat high and being proud about what we have done in terms of reducing our CO2 emissions. At the same time, we have launched a series of very interesting initiatives which highlight various aspects of this complicated decarbonizing effort. So there will be events. One is going to take place today about what we call the Greco Island project, which is essentially a collection of very interesting projects of how you can make your islands climate neutral. And we will be making also some important announcement in this respect. But as you see, there are various interesting events ranging from the development of offshore wind, where Greece can play a very important role, to the challenge of decarbonizing shipping, which is absolutely critical for us, for Cyprus, big shipping countries. We need to be protagonists in terms of the new technologies that need to be developed. Carbon capture and storage, another critical component of decarbonizing, especially heavy industry. So I'm sure that for those of you who choose to be here and attend our side events, you will find interesting things to hear. So let me again congratulate the team for putting together an excellent program, and wish us all a successful COP. This is an important COP. It's a stock-taking COP. We know that there is a distance between what we have agreed to do. By we, I mean the global community, and what needs to be done to remain on the 1.5 degree trajectory. We know that the consequences of the climate crisis are already with us. We suffered them this summer through a combination of devastating floods and devastating fires. Hence, we need to continue to place significant emphasis not just on the long-term mitigation, but also on short-term adaptation measures. How do we protect human lives? How do we predict better weather patterns? How do we use technology to essentially warn us ahead of time from extreme weather events? So just some quick thoughts to share with you. And again, congratulations for putting together an excellent program. And thank you all very much for being here.
And thank you, Prime Minister, for
Thank
joining
you.
us in this special day. So let COP28 begin.
In a couple of minutes, we are waiting Mr. Kerry. So we're going to start the first panel discussion. Just to inform you that in 10 minutes, we will start with the first side event, our Oceans Conference.
Απλά γι' αυτό για να ξέρω τώρα ποιος είναι και ποιος δεν είναι. Θα ζητήσω από την κυρία να μου το στείλει.
Άμα να καθίσεις εδώ, δεν μπορώ να περάσει. Θέλεις να κάτσεις εδώ. Ξεκινάει ο Πρωθυπουργός Κέρι.
Δηλαδή να πάει και στο για σένα να δείξω Σταύρο.
Excuse me? Hello. Just to inform you that there will be a delay of 15 minutes. We are all waiting Secretary Kerry. So please, I ask for your kind patience. Another 15 minutes.
Let's wait, and then well. Έλα.
Θα είμαι όρθια γιατί δεν έχω άλλο μικρόφωνο.
Okay.
Would you like some water? The train's pass.
I'm good. It's just, you know, we've been here a couple of days already because we're working on the loss and damage. You joined the program? Trying to get, yeah, we got it done. I don't know if you heard that, but we passed it yesterday.
Oh, yeah. That was on the side.
That's what we did. So no conflict over the next 2 weeks over that emotional issue. So we can really focus in now on key things.
How do you want to proceed? We're just going to ask us a couple of questions. It'd be good for you to say things about how this started and what it is you expect from it, and then I can say a few things about our priorities. Are you spending the whole?
I'm going to be the entire 2 weeks, so because if I fear, you know, the stock take is really important. And the date is April what? Today, the date April the 16th. April 16th. 15th to 17th. The dates are April 15th to 17th.
Yes, 16th to 17th the conference and 15th for the youth.
Your Excellencies, dear delegates, dear ladies and gentlemen, we are very privileged to have with us today two very important and renowned leaders. His Excellency, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis. He is the first Green Prime Minister of Greece, leading our country towards the path of sustainable and inclusive development. He has elevated Greece among the leading countries globally in the effort to combat climate crisis. The Mitsotakis administration passed the very first national climate law of Greece, phased it out lignite in electricity production by 2028, and drastically lowered down the carbon footing of the country by sharply increasing the percentage of renewable energy sources. By his leadership, he promotes the Sustainable Development Goal 14, having adopted important measures to protect our marine environment and promote green shipping. He is the Prime Minister who has mobilized the largest number of funds for environmental, climate, and ocean action in Greece. His Excellency, Secretary John Kerry. He is the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, the 68th U.S. Secretary of State, with a long history of leadership in both the climate and the ocean global agendas. Secretary Kerry, among other important, impactful, and long-lasting achievements, has founded the Our Ocean Conference. In 2014, the Our Ocean Conference was first launched under the initiative of the U.S. Department of State and Secretary John Kerry. And to me, that was a brilliant and a very inspiring moment in the history of global environmental governance. Overcoming the existing fragmentation of international, regional, and national institutions for the oceans, the conference today brings together the global ocean community as a whole. It brings together the states, the intergovernmental organizations, the non-governmental organizations, the academic community, and the private sector, with the aim to protect, restore, and preserve the oceans with concrete pledges and action. Thus far, until the last meeting that was held in Panama, the conference has managed to gather more than 2,160 commitments worth almost $130 billion. we are very proud that Greece will host the 9th Our Ocean Conference in April 16th and 17th of 2024, as well as the Youth Ocean Leadership Summit in April 15. Your Excellency, Prime Minister, how are you envisioning the 9th Our Ocean Conference in Greece? What is your main aspiration regarding this conference?
Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. Secretary Kerry, it's a real privilege to be able to share the stage with you, and I would like to congratulate you once more for your global leadership when it comes to tackling all aspects of the climate change crisis. But in particular, I would like to focus on this initiative you took 9 years ago to launch the Our Oceans conference, which we will have the privilege of hosting in Greece. Pencil in the dates, 16th and 17th of April, with the Youth Leadership Summit penciled in for the 15th of April. A great opportunity to bring together state actors, corporations, the civil society, to discuss some of the burning challenges in terms of protecting our oceans and in particular biodiversity. Why should we care about this? Well, we are a blue country. We have 170 inhabited islands, and a multiple of that who are uninhabited. We have 14,000 kilometers of coastline, and we feel we have an additional obligation to protect our marine diversity. At the same time, we're also the leading global shipping power in the world, controlling almost 25% of the global shipping fleet. So the whole question of decarbonizing shipping is very, very close to our heart. And I want our ship owners and our ship operators to take the lead in terms of adopting the new technologies that will contribute towards decarbonizing a sector which by definition is difficult to decarbonize. So we have many reasons to be hosting this conference in Greece. I'm very excited to be able to welcome you all. But maybe it would be more appropriate for the Secretary to speak about his vision, about the history of the conference, and what does he expect from us to do in next April, in 4 months from now.
I expect you to set the world on fire. No, different. Actually, I shouldn't have said that, given what's been happening. But first of all, it's an honor to be here, and I'm very, very grateful to the Prime Minister for his invitation to be part of this launching, if you will, of the Our Oceans Conference that will take place next year in April, just a few days before Earth Day, too, at the same time. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for your leadership. You are indeed a leader in green, and we really are excited by the possibilities of this conference being in Greece. Let me just say to all of you that I grew up mostly in Massachusetts, which is an ocean-faring state, once involved in massive trade with China in the 1800s, and whaling, providing the whaling oil that lit much of Great Britain for years. And we have a great history of the ocean. You all remember President Kennedy's affinity for the ocean. We have Cape Cod, the national seashore. I hope some of you have been there and seen it once or twice. And great fishing. We have fishermen and fisher people who have made their livelihoods for centuries in Massachusetts, from the first pilgrims and before then the indigenous populations. But, you know, growing up as a young person, exposed early age to the sea, you know, I played by the shore of the ocean and had a big rock, and I was captain of my rock, and, you know, played like children play, and grew with this appreciation for the ocean. But I came to understand that this vast, vast space of land, I mean, it's 3/4 of our planet. We call it Earth, but it could be called planet ocean, just easily. And that ocean has been the source of life, as well as daily commerce for countless numbers of people, but no one more than Greece and Greeks. You are one of the premier nations, leading in shipping today and going back into the early and ancient history of seafaring and of including national defense and wars and so forth. And I can't think of a more appropriate country to take on this mantle of responsibility for this next conference. The oceans produce 51% of the oxygen we breathe. There's no life without the oceans. A huge amount of the protein that people take on board, daily to survive around the planet comes from local community fishers, fishing people, not to mention the amount of fishing industry and the amount of restaurants that depend on the ability to serve fish, and hopefully today sustainably. So this fragile body of water, and you may say, what the hell is he calling it fragile for? It's gigantic, it's powerful, it can unleash incredible energy, and all of that it can, but it is fragile. Because of the outflow in various parts of the world of nitrates that are excessively used in growing food, when the rain comes, it spills into the rivers, and the rivers take it out. In our case, the Missouri River, the Ohio River, to the Mississippi River, and out into the Gulf of Mexico, where there is now a massive dead zone. Nothing grows. Oxygen starved because of the nitrates. This is true all around the world. There are over 500 dead zones around this planet. Moreover, if the oceans were a country, it would be the 8th largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. That's what happens through the oceans, on the oceans. And so for Greece now, at this critical moment of greater awareness of the crisis of climate, of greater understanding of the human elements that are threatening our oceans, for Greece to step up, I think, is hugely important, symbolic moment, because you are the world's largest shipping country, nation, and you have this long history. And I think it was Ulysses who said that the ocean is the source of everything. So the long tradition of understanding the ocean and respecting it goes right back to Greece. Now, why did I start this in 2016? For the simple reason that as a climate advocate and as a fishing advocate, I've rewritten our laws in the United States 2 or 3 times with my Republican, now deceased Senator Ted Stevens of Alaska. And we wrote the laws managing each of the fisheries. And I learned more than I wanted to learn about long haul and short haul and, draggers and you name it. Very technical but important. A case study in governance, I might add. So today, we're in trouble. But responsible shippers are stepping up. So we have Yara and MSC and Maersk and others around the world who voluntarily are making commitments to reduce their carbon footprint, to decarbonize shipping. And most of the trade of the world now is done on the oceans. We also have other challenges on the oceans that we need to be aware of. Law enforcement, smuggling, human trafficking. There are a lot of different issues that are only dealt with if we can ultimately get a law of the sea extension to the high seas, not just to the EEZs and so forth. So they're big challenges. And what we learned over the 9 years is that there's a thirst for action on this. Our ocean conference went from Washington, the US, to Chile, and from Chile came back to Washington for a year. Then it went to Europe, went to Norway, went to Malta, went to Bali, went to the Palau, and Panama most recently, and now Greece. And we believe that because of the symbolism attached to this, because of your history, because of what Greece brings to the table in terms of its current engagement in shipping and the impact you can have, There is not a better place to be able to have this conference in 2024 than in Greece. So we're very grateful to the Prime Minister for having the vision and the leadership ready to put to this task of the next iteration of the Our Ocean Conference. And I just want to emphasize what Dr. Dionysos said. We, in these conferences, I remember at the first conference, I sat there stunned when the Oak Foundation and the Pew Foundation and the Walton Foundation and others sat there and said, we're committing, in the case of $500 million, or we're committing 700. In the case of Norway, they put $1 billion on the table. So now, after all these years, we have 2,100 commitments that have been made, all being impacted, worth over the $128 billion that was mentioned a moment ago. So I have no doubt that we are poised to take a new leap forward in the struggle to protect the oceans, and we're very grateful to Greece for being leaders in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Kerry. Dear Prime Minister, could you reveal to us some of the commitments that Greece is going to announce at our Ocean Conference in April? What should the global community expect from Greece?
Well, first of all, let me just follow up on what the Secretary said in terms of some important areas where we think we can play a leadership role, but around which I think we should also need to focus the debate coming in April. Let me just highlight a few. Marine protected areas. And how do we ensure that these are not just paper projects, but we actually implement the legislation that currently exists in coordination and in cooperation with the local fishing community, who I think instinctively understand the danger from overfishing. They know it, and they know that if you leave a certain area of the sea without any fishing activity, the number of fish that will be reproduced, of wildlife that will be reduced there, will more than compensate for the loss of your ability to actually fish in these communities. And how do we actually do that? And what are the best practices in terms of working with the local fishing communities to convince them that this is actually a win-win proposition? And we certainly want to put very specific commitment in terms of reducing the activities of bottom trawlers and those types of fishing that do most damage to biodiversity. You know, the overall concept of what does it mean to have a blue economy and a sustainable tourism industry that depends on protecting our marine biodiversity. And how can these two be connected? I always find it fascinating when I see, for example, our fishermen take on visitors and have an additional source of income and take them for traditional fishing. And suddenly you realize you're doing something which is sustainable, but you also give fishermen an additional supplemental income and offering our visitors a unique experience, which at the end of the day needs to be connected to the sustainability of our economy. What is the connection between the oceans and climate change? We thought, John, that this was not relevant for Greece. Because you look at the heating waters, for example, in the Gulf of Mexico, you look at the hurricanes in the oceans, and suddenly we realize that we have a new reality. It's called the Medicane, it's a Mediterranean hurricane. This year we were struck by unprecedented floods. What was the result? The waters of the Aegean were much hotter than usual, and you had a storm that essentially circulated and went round and fed it, you know, got power out of the sea and dumped an unprecedented amount of water on central Greece. So this is an area that even countries which thought were immune to these types of dangers suddenly realize that we can be affected by that. The question of security, the seas, very, very important. The question of how do we fight piracy, and this is again a topic which, of course, our shipping community can take a leading role. And again, coming back to green shipping, how do we think out of the box? Is this just about new fuels? Is it just about propulsion? Are there other solutions using technology and AI that can help us? For example, there was a Greek startup called Deep Sea, which was just sold to a big Japanese company. What they do is use big data analytics tracking the existing ships in order to optimize routes and engine management. And that by itself can cut CO2 emissions by almost 10%. So there are easy wins, which we need to fully exploit. And I think that the great opportunity about these big conferences is that we really learn from each other. We bring people together, we have the additional pledges, and then we take stock. We come back and we say, okay, you've made these commitments. What exactly is it that you have done? But for us, this is a great opportunity to also drive, our bureaucracy and our, our administration towards, very clear goals that are, at the end of the day, related to who we are. We are tied to the sea in a way that not many other countries are, and it will be a privilege to be hosting this important conference, and I'm sure that we can learn a lot from each other.
Secretary Kerry, before we travel back to Greece, would you have any specific advice to give us to the organizing committee? What would you expect to see specifically?
No, I value my life. I'm not going to give you any advice. Publicly anyway. I think you just heard a spectacular articulation of some of the expectations from this conference, and I have 100%, total confidence in the Prime Minister and in Greece's commitment to this task. I'd just say this to all of you, that one of the examples of a thing that makes a difference, what I mentioned earlier about Maersk and these others, is they've taken a lead in decarbonizing. And they've done that as part of something called the First Movers Coalition, where people have been stepping up and trying to send market signals by doing things up front. And in their case, they're taking a lead on decarbonizing their ships. But that's part of a larger picture of what's called the Green Shipping Challenge, with the green corridors. And we're trying to green every aspect of what takes a ship from home port to destination port. And everything that touches that ship in the home port, the fueling, the cleaning, the stocks that come on board, et cetera. You try to really figure out, how do we become a green, sustainable operation? And moving through the journey of that ship, if there's a way station port you go into to refuel or whatever it may be, restock, reprovision, we want that to be a green process. So right now, everybody's really thinking hard. There's a ship coming in, I think, to Dubai under the auspices of Fortescue, Mr. Andrew Forrest, which is Australian flag, and he's the ship is going to come in, I think, on hydrogen, although it can't come all the way in to the harbor because of rules, so I think it may be on ammonia or something in between. But the bottom line is decarbonizing. I'm told by industry leaders that I've had conversations with that they anticipate the capacity to have a complete replenishment turnover, if you will, of the shipping numbers around the world in about 20 years. If that can happen, wow, that's an amazing step forward in terms of meeting your net zero 2050 goals and in terms of being a leader in decarbonizing on a global basis. So we expect more announcements. We expect more commitments. We still have things we have to figure out. How do you, it's one thing to set up an area of a marine protected area, but if it's not really protected, it's meaningless. And we've got to make sure that we're actually delivering on the checks and balances that guarantee the security. So there's a big agenda. I have no doubt that this is going to be one of the the standout meetings, and we anticipate nothing but going forward in progress. So thank you for the privilege of being here to share a few thoughts with you in preparation for it. We really look forward to it.
Prime Minister, Secretary Kerry, we are sure that our 9th Ocean Conference in Greece is going to bring bold commitments and accelerated ocean action. In the 9th our Ocean Conference, we aspire to achieve the outcome that will meet the level of the ocean ambition that the world needs today. Thus, we invite you all to join us in Greece in April 2024. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. We're happy to have you. Plus, it's a great time to be in Greece. We'll go out for a quiet dinner. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Και αν χρειαστείς δεύτερο μικρόφωνο γι' αυτό σου είναι εδώ. Όποτε είσαι έτοιμο, κάνεις νόημα για να το
Εγώ και ο CEO της Mazda. Ready? Να ξεκινήσω. Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Greece, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, Your Excellency, Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, it's an incredible honor that you're here today. Today, I will paint for you a picture of Greece as it is today and as it will look like in the years and decades to come. To paint this picture, I only need two colors. The color blue, blue because Greece is not just connected to the sea, we are off the sea. We are the home place of the historical paradigm of a seaman adventurer. Its name is Odysseus. And we are the country of, as you know, innumerable beaches, but also the strongest commercial shipping nation in the world. And of course, we are the country of 6,000 islands. To paint my picture of Greece, I also need the color green, because in the last years, green has been the focus of our vision for the country. In the last 4 years, we have doubled our renewables from 5 to 10 gigawatt. We will double them yet again from 10 to more than 20 in the coming 7 years. Today, more than 50% of our electricity comes from renewable energy sources. We are one of the most attractive destinations for renewable investments in the world. Our pipeline of projects is 10 times the national renewable targets for 2030. And we embrace and actively support green transition technologies and innovations like offshore wind, battery, pumped hydro storage, CCS hydrogen. So blue and green, the colors of Greece, and most of all, the colors of the Greek islands. Now beacons of a green transformation. Excellencies, guests, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this picture, the Greco Islands Initiative.
The country of more than 6,000 islands, known for their beauty and history. After 4 millennia of civilization, the Greek islands today thrive and prosper. Modern communities founded on growing economies, exploiting ample natural resources, but also the historic ingenuity and entrepreneurship of their populations. In the last 3 years, the Greek government decided to make Greek islands beacons of green and digital transformation, setting the paradigm for action against climate change. The program, Greco Islands, aims to transform the islands of Greece into models of green economy, energy self-sufficiency, digital innovations, and sustainable mobility. This is how this journey begins. Smart Island of Naxos. Utilization of cloud services to create smart infrastructures and solutions that improve everyday life. A partnership of more than 20 companies and organizations. The Telos Project. Increased penetration of renewable energy sources. First zero-waste island in the world. The Astypalia Project. Astypalia Project involves a completely new and advanced transportation system. Astypalia is becoming a model for green and smart living. The Halki Project. A holistic approach targeting all key infrastructure. Improving living standards for island residents and visitors' experience. The islands of Telos, Naxos, Astypalia and Halki were the testing ground for introducing a holistic transformation process to make Greek islands green and digital. The international attention attracted, but also the enthusiastic reception by the primary beneficiaries, the residents of the 4 islands themselves, speak for the success of the model. And, with this success as the legacy of the first phase, Greece commits to a plan for the transformation of all the remaining islands of its archipelagos. An ambitious plan, a challenging aspiration for the future, a promise for resilient, sustainable, ecologically balanced islands in Greece. A vision for Greco Islands.
So this is our progress in the last 4 years, but this is only the beginning, Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber. The next phase of the GR Eco Islands initiative sets an ambitious objective to turn all Greek islands into examples of green and sustainable transformation. This next phase was enshrined in our legislation last year in the climate law, and today we take another bold step by announcing the next GR Eco Island. Poros. Poros is an island near Athens. You can see the beauty. It has less than 4,000 year-round residents, but during the tourist season, the number more than triples. It is a very attractive tourist destination, and due to its natural harbor, a very popular sailing and yachting hotspot. So, 4 areas of intervention. Together with Masdar, we envisage a new future for the island of Poros. We have designed 4 interventions that will transform Poros into a green and sustainable paradigm, starting with the first intervention, clean energy production. Today, Poros depends on its connection to the mainland for electricity. We aim to make the island more self-sufficient and at the same time to cover most of the island's energy demand through renewable sources. A solar PV unit was designed together with Masdar to specifically address the island electricity needs, and bold measures as well to digitalize the electricity infrastructure that will allow for smart management of energy by residents and businesses. Second intervention, decarbonizing maritime transport. You know, visitors and residents use small ferries as their connection to the mainland. There is a narrow sea channel, only around 500 meters wide. This is one of the spots in Greece with the most frequent ferry interconnection, which, of course, and unfortunately burns oil. So we will introduce a new electric ferry, and we will convert small traditional passenger boats into electric, minimizing the carbon footprint of the island's connection with mainland Greece. Third intervention, electrification of road transport. We will replace the island's public vehicle fleet with electric ones. So buses, ambulances, police, municipality vehicles will go fully green. We will introduce also an innovative green delivery of goods service that will supply local businesses by exclusive electric cargo vans. And of course, we will deploy a sufficient number of public chargers. Fourth and final intervention, circular economy, focusing on more than 90% landfill diversion and full circular waste management. This intervention aims to drastically reduce the impact of waste on the natural environment of the island. So this is our vision for the island of Poros, but not only of us, it's also the vision of our friends and colleagues from Masdar, who worked with us for months to establish the foundation of our cooperation on those interventions, and who will continue to work with us until this vision for Poros, the next GR Eco Island, becomes a reality. I sincerely thank you all for the cooperation, and the people and government of the United Arab Emirates, our close allies and dear friends, for your generous contribution for the next GR Eco Island. And now it is my honor to invite our Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, the first one who saw in his mind the picture of Greece as purely blue and green, and who pushes all of us to make it our country's reality. Dear Prime Minister.
Thank you, Alexander. Mr. President, my dear friend, Dr. Sultan, ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all start by congratulating you on the very successful beginning of COP28, and thank you for making the UAE part of what we think will be a global success story. I am a big believer in the Greco Islands project for the simple reason that it is easier to decarbonize and push towards a sustainable future a small island than it is, for example, a big city. And we have numerous islands of various sizes that can benefit from innovative solutions around decarbonization, moving towards a green economy, but also digitization. You've seen some of the examples, and these examples are particularly important, not just because they highlight the impact that technology can have on making these islands reaching their climate neutrality targets before the rest of the country. They're important because what we have succeeded in doing is also to bring the local communities on board and make them understand that the green transition is actually a tremendous opportunity for them. When we launched the Astypalea project with Volkswagen about smart mobility, nobody knew about Astypalea. It was an island not particularly known, with not too many tourists. Now it's part of the, it's become a tourist destination on its own right. And the same is also happening with the other less known islands, where in every single one of them we are experimenting with new ideas. And we're particularly happy that we will be signing today this agreement between the Greek government and Masdar, a global leader in renewable energy, in terms of implementing some of these ideas on the island of Poros. As you saw, this is an island relatively close to Athens, but it is particularly important for our purpose because the ferry connection between Poros and the mainland is relatively short. It is much easier to electrify short ferry trips than it is to electrify larger trips. And of course, it is also an island that is a yachting destination, which means that ideas regarding cold ironing, how do we transform our port infrastructure into having a clear green footprint, can also be tested. Apart from the fact that it is a beautiful island, and we would be very happy for you to visit it during the summer to monitor the progress of this project. And of course, we have many other ideas, many other future partnerships that we can roll out. For example, the project of Tilos, run by a leading company from Greece, which is about to sign an important contract with the UAE regarding waste management, is only one example of how we can actually export technology to other countries of the world. And of course, we will also use our regulatory power to ensure that we push those who are more reluctant to move in this direction to do so at a faster pace. For example, why can't we have electric scooters in our smaller islands earlier than they would have appeared if we just left it to the devices of the market? These are just some ideas we can have in terms of maintaining our momentum and our leadership regarding the green transition. So I know Dr. Sultan is very busy, so I would like to thank him again for being here today, and maybe he wants to share a few thoughts with us. And we're very much looking forward towards the signing of this agreement, but in particular towards implementing what I think will be a very successful project.
Allow me just to say a couple of words, please. Your Excellency, my dear friend, it is indeed with great honor and pleasure that I accept this invitation and I join you in this very important milestone in the relationship, in the broader relationship between the UAE and Greece, as well as the very important and relevant relationship and partnership that we have established between Masdar and many relevant stakeholders in Greece. Greece continues to be a very important and a strategic partner to the UAE, and it continues to be an important and an interesting and a beneficial investment destination for Masdar and many other relevant investment institutions in the UAE. The subject at hand today goes hand in hand with our strategy here in the UAE, contributing to sustainability wherever we can has always been very high on the agenda of our senior leadership. As such, when Masdar was created about 18 years ago, many were questioning why would a country like the UAE proactively seek a key role in the advancement of renewable energy and sustainability. To us, it was more of a natural extension. It was more of a logical step. If we were serious about positioning the UAE as a true, responsible, reliable global energy player, there was only one area for us to proceed with, and that is to expand our horizon in energy and to start building on our deep energy expertise and invest in the advancement of renewable energy. And that's why today we are in more than 40 countries. So far we've invested more than $100 billion US. And as you heard His Highness the President today, we plan on investing another $130 billion US over the next 7 years, spanning the whole business value chain of renewables, sustainability, and climate solutions. The fact that His Highness also today launched Altera, a custom-tailored catalytic fund to help advance climate finance solutions is another testament to the commitment of the UAE to helping address this global challenge. And I must say, if you allow me just one last comment, Altera comes at a very critical time. And Altera, as a dedicated, custom-tailored investment climate fund, did not come out of nowhere. It came after thorough analysis, a deep understanding of what is really the challenge at hand today in terms of helping make finance available, accessible, and affordable. And that's how we came up with the $30 billion concept. $25 billion as equity investments and $5 billion as a catalytic risk mitigation vehicle that will help risk mitigate, ensure also the security of those investments, and to attract private capital to go hand in hand with our investments. So our hope, this $30 billion US will be in 7 years not less than $250 billion US, only because of this blended financing mechanism that we are applying through this fund. One last comment in regards to this project. I promise you, this might seem small. In our eyes, it's big. The fact that we have been given the opportunity to work hand in hand with our partners and colleagues in Greece, that on its own is a big task for us, and which we don't take lightly. We take this task, Your Excellency, with, of course, humility, but with a deep sense of responsibility. And I promise you, we will deliver a very good result that will make this project be a landmark and a true example that can be replicated not only in your region, but worldwide. I thank you, sir, for the opportunity.
Παρακαλώ πολύ, περάστε να ξεκινήσουμε. Παρακαλώ πολύ, καθίστε στη μέση.
Μην έχουμε εδώ άδειες θέσεις. Ναι, αυτή είναι η τσάρια του κυρίου Σκυλακάκη. Θα πάρω το θάρρο να το κατεβάσω. Ζεσθενόμασταν.
Ζεστάθηκα πως εσύ. Παρακαλώ πολύ να καθίσουμε και να ξεκινήσουμε.
Good evening. It's with great pleasure that we will start the next discussion. We are very honored to have at the Greek Pavilion the two ministers, Minister for Environment and Energy, Minister Skylakakis, and alternate minister, Deputy Minister of Economic Diplomacy, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Fragogiannis. A very interesting discussion with follow, but let me just introduce the moderator, Ms. Mirivili. She's currently working with the United Nations Habitat and Ars Rock Resilience Center of the Atlantic Council. She's also a senior advisor. She's on the advisory board of the EU Mission on Climate Adoption and the World Economic Forum. And what else, Ms. Mirivili? You will have the chance here to discuss with both ministers on the challenges of climate change and why Greece is in COP. So I let you on.
Thank you very much for your introduction. And I would like to say that it's truly a great pleasure to be here at the Greek Pavilion. It's amazing to have a Greek Pavilion at COP and to add our voice to the global climate discourse that's happening. But also it's really, I think, like a best practice, if I may say so, because it brings together a lot of different ministries and a lot of different organizations. And hopefully it will continue as a horizontal approach that can bring together different, a more integrated policy design and implementation for the different things we need to do for climate in Greece. So I just want to say, to start by saying that, as we all know, 2023 was an incredibly severe year for Greece, and not only for Greece. We had the hottest day ever in July. We had the hottest surfaces of the oceans. The surface of the ocean had the hottest temperatures ever recorded. September was the hottest month ever recorded. The Northern Hemisphere had the hottest summer ever recorded. 2023 is probably going to be the hottest ever again year recorded, taking the place of 2016, which was the previous hottest year. And all of this has, of course, the result of extreme weather events, which we have been experiencing in Greece this summer. Mr. Skylakakis, we were talking before, said that Greece was the canary in the coal mine this summer. Of course, we all know the incredible floods that we had to deal with, but also the very long heat wave that we dealt with and the fires, which burned an incredible resource for our country, the forest in Evros. And we know, because there is a science of attribution these days, that these events are linked to climate change. We don't have to wonder about why these events, these extreme weather events, have been happening. So it's a great honor, and it's wonderful to have this possibility of talking with these two ministers today. And I want to start by asking you, what are your favorite achievements as far as Greece is concerned the last few years in relation to climate change? What have we, can we be proud of? And each one of you, what is your favorite one? And how do we compare with Europe in that respect?
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Indeed, this year has been an extraordinary year in terms of difficulties for Greece. But the message from what has happened is that we are living in a new climate. When the hottest July happened and the hottest sea happened, the water from the sea, because of the extreme heat, went into central Greece through the extreme weather events. And when I looked together with Mr. Varilidis as these were happening at the maps, we have flood maps. And we tried to understand what kind of events were these events. And we realized, as the flood was happening, that we were talking about a 1,000-year event in Thessaly. And then it has gone almost undiscussed that 20 days later, but it's extremely important you understand why, at the exactly same place, we had another flood, which was, according to the flood maps, a 200 to 300-year event. Now, if these were unrelated events that happened in the old climate by chance, the chance would have been the same chance that lightning will hit you now, which doesn't happen. It's zero. It's so close to zero that we know, even from these two events, that we live in a new climate. And the real difficulty is that we don't know what this climate is.
Right.
We don't know. We know about the new climate as much as we know when we are looking through a crack of a door at a dark room. So the achievements that we have, and I will talk about the achievements, are too little in terms of what we must do for the climate. We are overachieving our climate targets. We are one of the European countries that each year we have about 2 million tons overachievement of CO2 targets. And if you look at the how we went from 2005 to 2023, 43% reduction, part of it because of the crisis, big part of it because we are 7th in terms of electrification in the world of using renewables for electricity.
We are 7th in the world.
7th in the world, and partly because we make the bold decision to go much faster in the decarbonization of our electricity industry. So part of it is because bad things happened, and part of it because good policies happened. And we are going to move much forward in the next few years. But still, what we are now facing, and I have to really point this out, is that huge amounts of money, because climate change, the new climate is here, is already being spent for adaptation. And it's not spent to prepare for adaptation, it's spent to pay the damages of adaptation.
Which is a problem.
Of adaptation. The Thessaly issue will probably cost us in the round about 3 billion euros. 3 billion euros from one event. So we need to move much faster in all tracks because things have changed, and now we are not at zero, we are past zero.
Okay, before I move to Mr. Fragogiannis, I want to come back to you and ask you, you said it's like looking in a black room, but we have tons of information, we have tons of data, we have tons of scientific reports. Let me just ask you, wait just a second. We have enormous information from scientists about where we're going and what kind of temperatures and what kind of events we will be facing. Are you talking about the fact that we don't know specifically, locally, what is going to happen?
I will give you an example, and you will understand. The best models that we have are models at about 4 to 4 kilometers squares. We are now discussing with our team to go into a model of 1 to 1 kilometer square. Why? Because adaptation now, it's not something that will happen in the future. It's a need for something that will happen in the future. It's something that is happening now, and in 5 years, something that will be already happening in the past. So we need much more detailed information to make real policy decisions. Now, the question is not if we are going to flood. The question is where are we going to flood?
That's right.
It's not what kind of forests are in danger, is what kind of anti-fire zones we're going to design and where.
Exactly.
So we need much more detailed information because adaptation needs are extremely, it's not a strategic plan that we have to do for the future. It's something that's already happening, and the difficulty is that half the world, in Europe, we can move much faster in terms of mitigation because the technologies are here and the economics are here. The renewables are the cheapest form of energy in Greece, by far. So it's a no-brainer that we can move fast there. And it's just moving fast in terms of bureaucracy, in terms of investments, moving fast in terms of financing. In the other half of the world, things have not started to move
as fast. I'll come back to this.
So, and all over the world, there are countries like us that we will face adaptation devastations-related devastations now. Now, next year, the year after.
Thank you.
Well,
first
of all, I'm not going to elaborate on the crisis. It is obvious, the environment, the change of the temperature, and all of the severe conditions that we're going through bring together an alarming state for all of us. This is the moment to consider what we are going through, to make policies, make decisions, And I'm very happy to be in COP28. And I'm very pleased that Greece, for the first time, has its own pavilion. Because at the same moment in time, I think it is a moment to celebrate. Celebrate the startup of a new moment in time in which nations consider seriously the consequences of the climate change and make decisions in view of putting together what it takes to combat these severe conditions. During these days in COP28, we have experienced the setup of a fund, the availability of more money to deal with the issues, the availability of technologies that do what you said earlier they do, such as early warning systems via satellite optical dimensions, and AI that provides early warning systems on forest fires, technologies that apply to the sustainability and the AI that is needed to provide what it takes. And I'm very happy that Greece is here to show its own exemplary projects and initiatives that we have taken in the past to demonstrate to the world that not only big countries with big budgets can make a difference, but smaller countries that think alike, that have a keen interest towards combating the events of climate change can also make a difference.
So you were referring to the Loss and Damages Fund that was created, and it was a really important moment for this COP that it started with the agreement for the Loss and Damages Fund, which for the first time means that we can fund the countries that are the victims of climate change, the most serious victims of climate change. Can you talk to me a little bit more about the role why is this COP important for Greece, and what do we expect to get out of this COP as a country? Like, what are your expectations, and what do you think we can contribute also?
I think there are three pillars to consider. One is to bring about to the community of the world the willingness of Greece to do things and demonstrate what we've done in the past. I can talk to you about that.
Please do.
Greece, at a very early moment in time, in 2019, at the level of the United Nations.
I don't know why this fly is...
It's all over me.
She's all over you.
So in 2019, our Prime Minister at the United Nations General Assembly in September in New York made a commitment that the country is going to shut down its lignite plants. Now, this was not the result of what happened in 2023. This is what happened in 2019 at a very early moment in time.
That's right. He made the
and since that moment, we've made serious political decisions and policies that enabled that. Today, our energy mix is made up of renewable energy, green energy by as much as 52%. Second point is that we have provided exclusive incentives to mobilize the international business community to come to Greece, invest in Greece in arrears. So the decision to shut down the lignite plants created an ecosystem towards investments in this direction. Third point is that Greece is a hub that provides energy not only to itself, but also to our partners in Europe, either via natural gas on pipelines from Azerbaijan or through storage and regasification units that exist already, and new floating storage and regasification units that are being built, vertical corridors that connect these to our northern neighbors, and through the northern neighborhood to provide the availability of the interim fuel, which is the natural gas, to our partners, and of course to provide green energy, green hydrogen, cheap energy from Africa to Greece and from there to Europe. We've also taken significant initiatives such as the Greco Islands and the Astypalia project whereby 4 years ago we came up with ideas that demonstrate to the world business community the impact of changing the sustainability aspects of a closed community such as an island. And we measure the impact of these changes to the lives of the people. In Astypala, for example, we provided what it takes for a hybrid system. So we are shutting down the diesel generators that give power to the island. We provide green energy to that respect. We provided chargers for electrifying the vehicles of the island. So nowadays in Astypala, the police car, the habitats have shut down the combustion engines. Even the ambulance is electric. We've provided what it takes for electromobility to be on demand for public transportation. So you don't have to wait on a cold day in the winter or a hot day in the summer in the bus station for a traditional 20-year-old bus to come by every half an hour, but you use your smartphone to ask for an e-van to pick you up from where you are and take you to where you want to go 24 hours a day. And we've even provided the roads of excellence and the technology that is needed to test the autonomous driving technology when that becomes available. So this example was set up, was visionized by Greece and realized to a great extent in one small island of the Aegean. The impact has been tremendous. And the latest I've heard is that we measure the impact of what we do to the people. The latest I've heard is that 97% of the people and the residents of the island and 100% of the tourists are satisfied by what we did. This is something to celebrate. This is something to talk about. This is something to be proud of.
And this is something that can bring more investment, from what I understand, using it as a great example, right? As a best practice to attract more investment.
Absolutely.
This is part of what we have been doing, and what are your expectations and what are your plans for the future for this kind of thing?
Well, this is only one case. Greece is an investment destination to the investment international community nowadays much more than what it was in the past. It takes political stability, it takes economic growth, it takes incentives, it takes human capital that is available in the country, but it also takes, and this is the most important to my opinion, a common language with the investment community. And by that, I do not mean English or French or Arabic. What I mean is a mentality of the same kind, whereby they feel that they have a credible partner on the other side of the table with whom they can speak that same language, which is the language of the investment-friendly government that we are.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge right now for this type of investments coming to Greece?
Well, the biggest
remaining challenge?
The biggest remaining challenge, to my opinion, is the old self of ours, which is the one thing that we change constantly every day, becoming better and better to it.
Thank you. Mr. Skylakakis, what do you think about, what kind of policies would you suggest, do you think are the most important policies from a ministry like yours looking into the future for changing the type of economy and the type of approach that we have in order to be able to move forward and also take into consideration a transition that is green but also equitable as much as possible?
Well, in Europe, we have the luxury of promoting a policy that is both green and equitable. Because, as I've said, now the green technologies are efficient. There are better investments than non-green technologies. And as these investments these investments also have another aspect which we are not talking about it a lot, that they don't need a fuel. Thus, they have a much smaller operating cost, and that means that as time passes, they will become even more competitive, and this means that the effects of the investments, the economic effects of the investments, permit us to help those communities and those people that are affected, either because old jobs are lost. For example, we have a big effort to help the areas where the old lignite plants were, and this effort will go extremely well. There will be immense investments in these efforts, and these people will be better off, though in a somehow longer perspective than now. And
how? What are we doing there? How are we transitioning the lignite areas?
Because for two reasons. First, we gave very big incentives. We have a Just Transition Fund, which is a European fund that helps in these areas. We give them investments by ourselves. We have the RRF, where there are huge incentives, especially from the loans part, for investments everywhere, but businesses are looking into these areas to place their new investments. And at the same time, we are helping in other specific issues. For example, the heating, which was done using the lignite plants, must be turned into heating with other ways, and this is something that we are going to invest in. So we are helping in many ways. And also in other aspects, as the economy is creating more jobs, Greece now has less unemployment than before the crisis.
Okay.
We just dropped under the unemployment of the crisis. What is happening is that we need more employment for the green industries and for the economy in general, and this does not resolve the problem of jobs that are lost in the old sectors, because it's a totally different issue to have to resolve this problem in an economy that's slowing or going worse, and much easier to do it in an economy that moves forward. Now, this is how we are succeeding. And in the future policies, what we are looking into is, first of all, be first movers where we are competitive. One of the things that we are competitive is offshore wind. Offshore wind is a new, huge resource, as we expect offshore wind prices to drop 50% in the next 5 to 10 years. We have the biggest offshore wind potential in our wider region, probably in the whole Mediterranean. We are going to move fast there and become something beyond a hub. We are going to become also a provider of energy for the wider region, of this specific kind of energy where we have huge potential. There we are moving faster. In other technologies, we are moving together with the technology as the technology gradually matures. Because for smaller countries, you have to make decisions on where is your competitive advantage in this new world, and move fast where you are competitive and move with caution where you are not competitive. And this is also a message for other countries all over the world, because smaller countries have different competitive advantages.
Right.
So this is the second area of policies. And the third area is adaptation. We have now realized that adaptation needs huge investments. So we are moving money, especially in our ministry, money from carbon credits, which is a huge new financing instrument for us. We are moving money from carbon credits from mitigation to adaptation.
Okay.
So this is the first the third big policy change. And this means forests, this means resilience to floods, this means changing our cities to be resilient to higher temperatures in the summer rather than in the winter.
So we are looking into risk reduction and building resilience rather than responding to deal with the destruction.
Well,
we are planning for, like, we have this foresight type of policy.
Well, it's not foresight, it's what happens if a truck hits you.
But usually
you have to get up and make sure that it doesn't hit you a second time.
Yeah, which means you have to make the right kind of lights, the right kind of streets, the right kind of...
I will give you some very specific examples to realize that it's very practical what we are talking about. Okay. It's not theory. For example, if you have a barn and you're in a floodplain, like in Thessaly, build your barn 4 meters higher. You won't lose hundreds of animals when the flood comes.
So are we starting to plan different types
this is the new way that we must think.
Great.
Because
I agree totally.
Things will happen, to remember an old film, Alien, not Alien, Predator, I think. Things will happen. It will be unprecedented.
Right.
And you cannot have huge public investments that will save you from what will
That's
happen.
Right.
So you need to be resilient on your own.
That's right.
Your business, your farm, you must think about this different climate. The state will come and help. It will provide programs. It will help. It will provide planning. It will stop you from going into places. It will tell you if you want to have something at level 0, where you put expensive machinery, where a flood can happen. Don't do it. I will not permit you to do it.
I think you're absolutely right.
But we need to get into that mentality. We have been into we must save the planet mentality. We've done whatever we can do and must do a lot more, because we must save ourselves from what we are doing to the planet. That's the real mentality. But now we must also be into the mentality the climate has changed. You have to adapt. And I can tell you, all over the world, if we get into that mentality, climate mitigation, climate policies will go much faster than the other way around. Because if people understand that it's their problem that they will face in the next years, they will realize the necessity of moving in both adaptation and mitigation.
This is a very big discussion that's happening all over Europe and in other fora, that we have to move together to create policies and actions that bring together mitigation and adaptation, and up to now we've been separating them wrongly. And the reason why is because first we can finance resilience and adaptation much better if we link it to mitigation, because we can have more return on investment, but also because we can avoid maladaptation. So if we put together mitigation and adaptation, we can understand that, for example, if everybody buys an air conditioning, it's not going to be a solution, right? Because the mitigation side is going to get totally, we're going to go overboard. Or if we do the wrong kind of adaptation, we can actually, the wrong kind of mitigation, we can actually really contribute to false types of results in the future. Resilience is a really significant issue, as you're saying. I totally agree with you. One of the main problems that countries have been facing is that because adaptation and resilience building is very much of a local issue, because it changes from Larissa to Athens, we have different types of problems, and from Thessaloniki to a small island in the Aegean. So one of the problems that countries have been facing all over is that there is no alignment and no streamlining between the different levels of government to facilitate these types of policies and these types of planning and implementation. So usually we have silos between the different levels of government. Each one works separately. And we really need to create a new type of governance that can facilitate this type of working. And for example, in Copenhagen, when a few years ago it faced the similar type of flooding, where it had a 1,000-year event follow a week after a 100-year event, they created a series of guidelines where the way they build the pavements, the way they build the buildings, the parks, the asphalt, etc., has changed to take that into consideration. And this happened a decade ago in Copenhagen. But now these are the guidelines. This is how the private sector, the public sector, when they're going to do anything, they do it in that way. And this is the way a lot of cities and a lot of countries are advancing. Can we move that way? Can we start aligning ourselves and try to kind of create general guidelines for the type of resilience that we need to build in the country?
Well, to be honest, that was one part of the new draft law I presented yesterday at our Council of Ministers and the Prime Minister. And it comes a few months after our floods. So floods seem to make people focus into what needs to change. In terms of governance, I think what we must always be aware of, because the needs of this transition are immense, is efficiency. We are not talking about enough about efficiency in climate change policies, because I will give you an example from our country. We've moved earlier in subsidizing, and this has not happened not only to us, to other countries as well, renewables. Now we are paying a huge amount of high subsidies for the old renewables. And to be frank, we could have had the same policy path with with these renewables that we have already implemented to be implemented, but at different times, and with half the subsidies that we are paying. And this money could have been paying, we're talking about huge amounts of money, could have been paying resilience or other mitigation policies. So efficiency is extremely important in the green transition. And as we move into the real heart of the green transition, which is where we have to pay both for adaptation and mitigation, it becomes even more important. Because in the end, the amount of money that societies can pour into climate change policies is a certain amount depending on the society. You cannot pour more money than the society can give you in political terms. So if you are not efficient in the way you use it, this is the biggest danger in my mind for green transition. Inefficiency at a time where money is no longer abundant. And this is even more important after the inflation crisis, because these are capital-intensive investments, and now they are much more difficult because of the high interest rate era that we have entered.
Thank you. And my last question, because I think we should be wrapping it up, and I want to address it to both of you, has to do with misinformation and disinformation. It's an issue that is considered one of the most serious challenges that we are facing and we will be facing in the future in relation to climate change, both mitigation and adaptation. We saw a lot of misinformation and disinformation happen in relation to the fires and in relation to the wind turbines that you talked before. I mean, there is a lot of issues that are today affecting the capacity for innovation, for innovating, because there is a lot of mistrust. But the whole idea of creating a climate of trust and creating a climate of all of us being on the same page as to where we wanna go is really important in order to be able to achieve what we want to achieve. We have to take the people with us. And in our country, as well as in other countries around the world, misinformation and disinformation is something that your government had to deal with and is dealing with. So I would like to have your ideas about this, how you are thinking about this, and what do you think would be a way to deal with it? Mr. Fragogiannis, and then...
Well, I think the best way to deal with misinformation and disinformation is by providing information. So we need, as politicians, to express our vision, our action plan, vividly, widely, persistently to the communities of the world and as far as what we do. I will use for 1 minute the example of Astypalea. When we launched the project, it was hard to convince the residents that it is to their benefit, because there is what we call a resistance to change. And people do not necessarily comprehend what we do and why we do it and what sort of an impact will that have to their lives. So in time, by providing the information needed, we, number one, avoided the misinformation, and second, we succeeded to reach our goal of why we do what we do and what difference does that make to their lives. I think overall, politicians, the business community needs to provide the reason why to the people so as to replace misinformation with information.
Thank you.
I would take it from from what Costa said, to the next level, which is give results to the local communities early in terms of their gain in the projects that you have. So give them cheap electricity first and ask questions later. I would say as an example. And when you give the benefits later on, you get the misinformation anyhow. And the second thing about misinformation and disinformation is never forget that this is not accidental. there are still huge global interests in countries that don't want climate change and see it as a threat. And they are there in terms of misinformation and disinformation. And you have to understand it and showcase it because they're doing their job and we're not doing ours.
That's great, and I thank you both very much for today, but I also want to say that this effort, this pavilion, and the fact that we are live streamed right now is a very important aspect of what we're talking about. Because
and we have to thank Alexandra Zoukou and Kostas for that and for all the extraordinary work that they have done, plus Petros, in having us all here today and for the days to come.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.